Because the challenge that people very often have with this suggestion is that they're coming from the point of view that different kinds of injuries need different kind of specialists. And it is true in a way. I mean, if I need a surgery on my knee, I would much rather have an orthopedic surgeon do that than a cardiac surgeon, right? But because of that, we are so caught up in this thinking that for a specific physical trauma, I need a specific plan or a specific specialist, that it blinds us when it comes to a whole healing journey that takes way longer than just a few hours or a few days. I mean, it can go on for weeks, for months, for years. And that's why you need a holistic approach for healing that covers all aspects of recovery. You need physical support, yes. You need emotional support, absolutely. You need mental support, yup. And you also need spiritual support.
Welcome to the Mindful Injury Recovery Talks with Dr. Maya Novak. Your host is a mindful healing expert and the author of the book, Heal Beyond Expectations. And this show is here to give you the extra resources you need when healing from any physical trauma. Tune into today's episode to get inspired and empowered. And before we start, here's a little known fact about Dr. Maya. She believes that the word hate is too strong of a word to describe anything that we dislike.
When my husband got me to the hospital with my broken and dislocated ankle, all I wanted was for the pain to go away, to hear some answers, and to get the plan of how my ankle could be usable again. I am so grateful for modern medicine, as are millions of people around the world every single second of every single day. And thank goodness for health professionals who've been investing countless of hours into their education and work. And it's because of this science that so many of us are now able to use our bodies again. But there are some missing things in the conventional medical approach to treating injuries, and it's on us to help change that. What I mean by that? For years, I was a part of that group of people who are just annoyed with medical system because everything is bad and nothing changes, and the big pharma and physicians are only thinking about themselves and the money, and they don't think about people's health. And while there is some truth to it, I mean, I worked in a pharmaceutical company for 4 years, many years ago, and it is a business. But then, I stopped and I thought about it, because in the same way as I'm influencing, for example, food industry with my money, the food that I buy and the food that I absolutely don't buy, in the same way, we have the power to influence the medical system by the questions that we ask, by the research that we do for ourselves, by the offered solutions that we say yes to and those that we say no to, by, so many things. You have the power in your hand. We all have it. And so I was lying in the hospital bed waiting for those answers and to hear the plan that would get me back on my feet. But honestly, all I got was, this is the surgery that will do. Here is the medication that you need to take. And some physio when you are ready for that step. That's it. And while I know that even that for some people sounds like a VIP plan, because since I started helping injured women and men, I hear one story over and over again, either through conversations or getting emails, messages. And that story is that some physicians don't even advise physiotherapy. They say, just walk it off. That's it. Or, just move your arm a bit more and that will do it. And I know that physiotherapists and other professionals whose work is to help people get back on their feet are right now going, no, this is so wrong. But even this plan, surgery, if it's needed, medication, and then physiotherapy, is way too flawed when we are talking healing any kind of physical trauma. You need more. Your body needs more. And the problem that modern medicine is still operating by is reductionism. I mean, thank you, Descartes, right? Because in the 17th century, with this newly discovered science, the modern medicine went down the road that the body, the physical body, can in some ways influence the mind, but there is no way that the mind can influence the body. So it's just impossible. And 400 years later, we are still operating like that. And this is one of the problems why in this time now, the recovery plan for any kind of physical trauma doesn't include all the aspects that are important in healing. And just before I guide you through the plan, let's talk about how one plan can be the same for any kind of physical trauma. Because the challenge that people very often have with this suggestion is that they're coming from the point of view that different kinds of injuries need different kind of specialists. And it is true in a way. I mean, if I need a surgery on my knee, I would much rather have an orthopedic surgeon do that than a cardiac surgeon, right? But because of that, we are so caught up in this thinking that for a specific physical trauma, I need a specific plan or a specific specialist, that it blinds us when it comes to a whole healing journey that takes way longer than just a few hours or a few days. I mean, it can go on for weeks, for months, for years. And that's why you need a holistic approach for healing that covers all aspects of recovery. You need physical support, yes. You need emotional support, absolutely. You need mental support, yup. And you also need spiritual support. Why? Because your whole being consists of these four bodies: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And so let's leave Descartes in the 17th century and let's move to the 21st, where we already know and we have evidence that the psychological state affects the healing outcome. That what you are imagining in your mind is affecting how your body responds. That what you are feeling on a daily basis have an effect on your biochemistry. And going even further, your injury is not a coincidence. It's your body's way of speaking of what needs your attention. And by cutting something out, which sometimes is absolutely necessary, but it doesn't mean that we also resolve the main issue, the main reason of why this happened, why this physical challenge represented itself right here, right now. And please hear me out. This is not about pointing the finger and saying it is your fault. No, this is about zooming out and looking at the big picture. It's an opportunity to step forward. Make sense? Now let's look at the plan. I prepared for you a PDF, the Mindful Wheel of Healing, that you can find on my website. If you go to mayanovak.com/podcast, click on episode 11, download it, print it out, give it to your friends, family, colleagues, whoever needs it. And this part here of this episode is the hands-on work, so that we take that theory and put it into practice so that you can move forward in your journey. It is something that I give my clients all the time for their homework. And not just that, We do this at the beginning, well, they do it at the beginning of our work together and then a couple of months later. And the reason for this is because that way you can actually notice how much you've progressed during this time. So, in the PDF, you will see there's a wheel divided into 4 parts: emotional support, mental support, physical support, and spiritual support. And wheel has 10 levels. And so you will think about how many points you can give yourself by thinking how much support you are already giving yourself in each aspect. So on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 is I barely do anything or maybe nothing, and 10 is I'm a master. And be honest with yourself. I mean, this is the time for honesty. How much are you actually doing in that department? And each aspect has also space for you to write down all the things that you're already doing, to really get this big picture of what is already in place for you, and also what you need to add to help your healing. Now, let's talk about each aspect.